Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome to the MyBroadband conference from Synthesis, Jean-Pierre Pienaar, who's the Cloud Optimization Practice Lead at Synthesis. Jean-Pierre, how are you doing firstly? I'm sure you are pretty crazy with this COVID-19 pandemic around us, and I think that the last 12 months, this massive acceleration we've seen has been crazy. So I imagine you've been pretty busy.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. Firstly, thanks for asking. Yeah, it's been a bit of a challenging year, I would say. I think in the tech industry, it's opened up quite a lot of opportunities, and I think for a lot of people, the working remotely thing actually ended up being quite a big benefit.
Yeah.
But obviously, quite a lot of challenges in doing so, and opened up quite a lot of opportunities as well, I would say.
Yeah. Well, there's been a massive transformation and move to the cloud. Whoever was thinking of moving any kinds of loads into the cloud, there's been a fast, aggressive uptake in the last 12 months. And I guess some people are doing it right, some people are not doing it so right, some people are doing it semi-right. When we talk about a well-architected solution in the cloud, what do we mean by that?
So I think well-architected framework and well-architected solutions is a very buzzwordy topic at the moment.
Yes.
But I think there's quite a big misconception around what having a well-architected workload running in the cloud actually means. I think a lot of people think it purely focuses on the actual architectural implementation and the design of your solution. But in reality, I think that the concept spans a much wider scope than this. So obviously, I would say that the way that you design your system and the way that you actually implement the solution is very important, but focusing on your day-to-day operations and making sure you've got the correct processes in place to maintain this workload and actually enable business success becomes a much larger issue as well.
Okay, now that's very interesting. So you're seeing quite a distinct difference in how people are managing these kinds of things. Now, when you look at the South African market per se, and how customers are designing and running workloads in the cloud, what are you seeing in the South African market?
So we've, especially in this last while, we've actually been engaging quite a lot with customers specifically around this. And we've been working on multiple tiers of customers, from startups to large enterprises, small businesses. And it's been quite apparent that there's a general lack in understanding of what it actually means to have a well-architected solution.
Mm.
This, in my opinion, isn't really their fault. Like I've noticed that the accessibility of cloud actually offers a very easy way for people to get into the cloud, right? So there's online courses, there's training material, there's endless support that the guys can do, and they can easily design and develop and deploy a workload into the cloud. And that's great. I mean, that's one of the big benefits of actually moving to the cloud, right? Like you don't have all of this red tape to push through. But the issue is the cloud expands quite rapidly, and it's extremely vast, right? So it's very difficult to expect somebody to actually know everything, know how to solve these problems, know how to do networking, know how to do security, know how to operate your business properly. And it becomes a situation of the guys just don't actually know what they don't know, right? You can't expect somebody to solve a problem that they don't even know existed. Some examples that we saw in recent, like on a recent customer that I engaged with, is they were building a data lake solution in AWS. So they've been doing this for quite a while, and they basically use a majority of it. They use a service called AWS Glue. So Glue is this managed serverless ETL service in AWS, which allows you to, in a serverless fashion, spin up jobs that process your data and store it in a data lake or in any system.
Mm.
And for their system specifically, they run about, let's say, 1,000 workloads or 1,000 of these little jobs each day with an average execution time of around a minute to 2 minutes. And for the longest time, these guys have been running it on like Glue version 1, right? So what Glue version 1 sort of meant, and that was the best way to do it at the time as well, is that you would have for these jobs, whenever they invoke, they had a cold start of around like 10 minutes about. So they would have a 10-minute cold start on each job, and they'd have 1 to 2 minutes of execution time. But with the pay-per-use model that the cloud actually offers you, that ends up that you're paying for that full 12 minutes of execution, and your performance is taking a massive hit as well. So then around middle of last year, I think it was, AWS released a new version. So they released version 2 of Glue. And what this meant is it effectively nullified that cold start time, right? So had the guys actually followed proper well-architected processes and kept up to date with new features, new releases, new services maybe, they would have been able to pick this up and easily been able to change it. Like, and in doing so, they would massively reduce their cost as well as their performance. So, I mean, one of with cost and performance obviously being some of the pillars in well-architected. I know it's available everywhere and it's a hot button topic, but at a high level, the things that you're trying to solve is cost, performance, security, reliability, and your day-to-day operations of your workloads. Yeah.
No, I mean, you raised a very interesting point over there, and I guess it's not a solution that you can just simply turn on and expect it to work all the time. You constantly have to review and look at where the changes are happening, and always look at the faster spin-up times that you mentioned as well. And yeah, it costs money. Those 4 or 5 minutes you were talking about can cost a lot of money over an extended period of time. So when you look at this customer per se, I guess you can use this example in many such instances. At what point do you actually review your architecture?
So, having explained a bit what well-architected means, right? That it's not just the best way of implementing your resources, and that you can't expect everybody to know everything. It becomes very important to actually start doing these reviews, and not just the review of from your own perspective. Like, that's obviously a great driving factor as well, but it becomes a bit similar to you just marking your own homework, right? So driving these review processes can be very useful by getting external people in to come and look at it, to get the most use out of it. And what I've noticed is that, in my honest opinion, and I don't see this enough, but these reviews should form part of your entire cloud lifecycle. There's obviously quite a few important milestones that you would do these reviews at, and specific timelines that you would do it at. So firstly, the obvious one is during your initial phase. So when you would design your workload, or you're deciding to migrate a workload into the cloud, it's imperative that you actually do these reviews to make sure you start off on the right foot. So if you do it at the beginning of your journey, you can make sure that you're covering all of these elements. You're not just solving your problem, right? You're looking at how you're actually going to run a business using this solution. And it gives you the ability to actually weigh up some trade-offs that you can make, right? If you do it in a well-defined pattern, you can look at what benefits you're getting versus what risk. So for instance, let's say you find this great solution and it's the perfect service for you, and it's going to save you so much cost, but it might give you a little bit of a knock on performance. You then have the ability to actually get the relevant people in place to go and look at these various options and weigh them up against one another to understand that, do we go for the cheaper solution? Do we go for the one that actually affects performance? What's most important for us? Then obviously, this is one thing that I'm quite passionate about, and I'm trying to drive it, and I'm trying to convince people to actually get into a habit of doing this, is to make well-architected reviews part of your architectural approval process. So that means basically doing these reviews throughout the full journey. So doing it in the initial phase of it, doing it whenever you decide you're going to migrate a workload or promote a workload from your development environment into your production environment. The thing with cloud, like I mentioned previously, is it changes rapidly, it evolves, and that's great and it's amazing, but it becomes so difficult to be able to say that the way that you implemented your solution 6 months ago is the best way for it now. So getting into a habit of running these reviews frequently And periodically, like when massive architectural changes come in play, you do it then. When you want to promote a workload, you do it then. When you're designing a new one, you do it then, to make sure that you're actually getting the best solution for your problem and you're enabling the business to get the most success out of it.
Yeah, I guess it's good hygiene. Many
Yeah.
industries call it. I mean, it's just good hygiene and good, good maintenance to be doing this. And I guess the benefits that you're talking about that you're going to derive from doing it this way that you spoke about, that there must be massive. I mean, what are those benefits that people will get out of doing this review of the architecture, consistently, as you've mentioned? The benefits must be fantastic.
Yeah, so there's obviously your obvious benefits, right? Like you're running your workload according to this pillar. So you're running your workload securely, it's running reliably, it has the best performance, and it's not costing you that much. But there's a bunch of inherent benefits that you don't actually think about, and you don't realize, and we've seen this at multiple customers, that's actually where they see the benefit, because a lot of the guys have very skilled, very technical guys. They know how to implement, and they're technically very strong. But some of the benefits, like a third-party expert coming in to look at your system as from a holistic view, gives you the ability to actually track and visualize potential business risk, right? There's small things that you might miss with the nuances that I mentioned. So the things that you wouldn't actually think would make an impact, but it ends up making a massive impact. Like ensuring that guys actually run game days periodically, for instance, right? Ensuring that they know that in the case of an incident, they have actually trained for it, right? They know what to do when something goes wrong. They've got well-defined processes in place to actually be able to action it if something were to go wrong. I can't explain to you how many times I go into customers, I do these reviews with them, and I ask them, okay, cool, do you think you're ready if an incident happens? And the answer almost always ends up being, yeah, I think so. And then you start drilling into it and you ask them, cool, do you have monitoring? Do you have logging? And everybody's like, I think I do. I think I have enough. But it doesn't help to go and enable monitoring after the fact that an incident happened. You can't go and figure out what went wrong if you're only doing this stuff reactively and not proactively. Not having the correct tools installed, for instance, to be able to do forensic analysis of what went wrong, can be a massive issue, which guys don't think about because they focus so hard on solving the problem, right? Like you're in your day-to-day, you're trying to solve the business need and the business problem, and you can't foresee all of these issues sort of coming through. There's a big benefit, and I'll go into a bit of program benefits as well from a cloud provider perspective. But there's a big benefit that I see, especially if you're focusing on the business value, is that you're getting all levels of your stakeholders involved in this entire process. You're getting their buy-in on the success of the entire cloud estate, and you're ensuring that there's enough support across your entire business to enable the best result. Sometimes these benefits that you get, right, it's tangible, right? You improved security. Your system is now highly available and it's running as expected if something were to go down. But a lot of the things that we see customers lack on is those operational benefits, right? Tracking your operational estate, tracking operational metrics to see how you run, how you operate the business, to be able to actually improve on it, right? If you don't track and you don't measure, how can you ever expect to improve? What does improving actually mean in that sense? So for example, of that, because it's always quite a vague, like random concept of saying operational metrics, right? Something simple like the amount of errors you get when you deploy. You can track that, right? And you can measure that as a big inherent benefit. If you can track and you can say, okay, cool, as part of this sort of operational excellence journey we went on, we moved to a automated deployment model, which brought down our deployment errors significantly. There's then obviously the big like tangible benefits as well, apart from just the security and stuff. And that's something we saw with one of our customers recently, actually, is where we were able to cut down their spend by half, right? And it's not something that is difficult to do, or you can't do it yourself. It's just nice to get that external view that doesn't have all of the red tape, doesn't have all of the history around why you made certain decisions, and isn't in that constant drive of delivery, to give you a maybe sometimes it's a very simple, easy way of solving a problem, optimizing your system. And that's looking at a sort of holistic cloud view, right? So I'd like to say that well architected is cloud agnostic, because it is, right? Like the principles of making sure you have good security and reliability, and you're not spending too much where you don't need to, is common across all clouds. But obviously, from my sort of skill set and experience specifically lie in AWS. And with AWS, they I would say they sort of kicked off this entire idea of the well-architected solution. So they run this well-architected partner program, which they actually incentivize their customers to go and run these reviews, right? They physically incentivize you with an amount of $5,000 per workload if you actually commit to remediating 25% of the high-risk items that comes out of your system, right? That's awesome, because you get the benefit of your workload is running optimally, it's running securely. You get that external opinion to say that it's almost like an audit, if you want to see it that way, to say that you're running your system as it's supposed to be run, but you also offset your spend in doing so. And the last thing I want to mention, sorry, I know I'm rambling on quite a lot, but we've seen that doing this well-architected review type scenario becomes a great way to actually build a relationship and a partnership with an AWS partner, right? You don't just go in, do a review, and leave. You now get this nice understanding of what their workload and what their business actually looks like, so you can actually enable them in their future cloud journeys.
Okay, well, listen, I mean, that's a very well explained answer, and I think that a lot of people have been furiously writing down and making notes, because there are some really valid points that you made there, Jean-Pierre. But how do you integrate well architected into your client engagement model, for example?
So at Synthesis, this is actually well architected has become a staple for any engagement that we do with a customer. We've seen the benefit through and through so many times, because it gives us and the customer such a great benefit, where we go in, usually you go in blind, right? You have to go and solve this problem, and you don't know how. But running it this way, you get a detailed understanding of what their entire business looks like. You get a detailed understanding of exactly how their workload is running in the cloud. And they get the benefit of some expert opinions on recommendations they can make and improvements they can make in their systems. By leveraging the well-architected partner program, we've been able to assist our customers from migrations to enablements, to even MSP engagements, and supporting these customers. It gives you that initial foot in the door, so that you can start this partnership, and you can start this journey with the customer. And it's, if we focus on just hammering that point, because I'm very passionate about it, doing these reviews in a like very frequent process driven system, you can actually realize the benefits often, and you can make sure that you are at a stable level constantly, and you know that it's not just you thinking that you're doing stuff correctly. You're getting guys to come and look and make sure that there's a good way of doing it. The beauty that I see of well architect, right? Like I said, it's the concept of it is cloud agnostic, and I know Azure and AWS runs their own concept of a well architected framework. But it spans multiple clouds. It spans multiple sizes of businesses, and it's given smaller companies, startups, SMEs, the ability to actually engage with partners, right? AWS partners, Azure partners, which they wouldn't have previously gotten an opportunity to do, because it's not this massive initial engagement of the guys, and you have to like set up proposals and do all of this massive work to get it going. You just go in, start a relationship, start a conversation, look at what they're doing, and try and help them to do it better. I think whatever your business looks like, right? Whatever solution you are running in the cloud, you can benefit from well architected. It gives you this surety that you're running your system optimally from a technical perspective, but also you give that surety that your business, the business value that you're actually getting out of it, is the key focus. And you're making sure that at all levels, everybody is involved in it. Everybody is key to make sure that you get this the solution across the line successfully in the best possible way, and you remove blockers, right? Because it becomes this collaborative sort of view of a business, instead of just the technical guys gets thrown requirements over the wall and they need to now solve it without getting the context of, is it maybe the best solution, right? Do they have the correct team sizes? Do they have the correct people to be able to actually run, operate, support this workload after the initial sort of churning of the workload?
Wow, lots to think about, and I guess it's almost like having a very expensive car and not servicing it, or not allowing the experts to fine tune it and make sure that it operates as it's told to in the manual. And we know how expensive these cars are and what intricacies they've got in the car, and there's computers all over the place, and there's no way that the owner is expected to basically drive the car and make sure that the car is running optimally. Take it to the experts. Let the experts sort out all the problems. Jean-Pierre Pienaar, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Cloud Optimization Practice Lead at Synthesis. Thank you for joining us at the MyBroadband conference.